Okay, so we are live now. Let's welcome everyone. Welcome to Take Charge of Your Health and to another Sunday morning health discussion. Today's topic is Eden Part 1, as we said last time that we will have. We have Brother John EverBlest back sharing with us today. So if you are on YouTube and we can't exactly see who has joined, please send us a hello, send us a message, let us know where you are joining from. That would be nice. And reminding everyone again that at the end of the presentation, we have a Q&A segment where you can ask your questions. And Brother John EverBlest will do his best to answer as time allows. So welcome back, Brother John. It's a blessing to have you back sharing with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. So we're looking forward to finding out more about what you have to share about Eden. It is an interesting topic. It sounds interesting. And yeah, let's start with a word of prayer and we'll get into the discussion. Dear Lord, thank you so much for your blessings. Thank you for this Sunday morning again that we can come together and discuss. We ask you to be with our guest speaker, our Brother John, and be with us as well again. We ask you to open our hearts and minds that we can see what you want to tell us, what we need to take on board and use in our lives to have good health and to be mentally, spiritually, and physically healthy. We thank you and ask all these in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay.
You can share your screen anytime, Brother John. There are no issues with that.
Okay, here we go. Share sound. And I'm sharing a video clip on this one as well. Here we go. Okay, let me set this up. Show from beginning. Flip that around. Okay. I've just learned that if you were on Zoom, you could manipulate that, our pictures there. Let's flip it down. I'm just going to shut mine off and I'm going to move this bar, that toolbar out of the way. Hide floating meeting controls. Okay, there it is. Almost. Okay, we're ready. This is called today's topic. Part 1 is Eden, God's magnificent outdoor automatic healthcare system. You know, I started out with sunlight when I was first beginning, and then I did more on sunlight and then light therapy. And then I started doing other natural remedies sort of things from nature. And it began to dawn on me one day that, wait a minute, God's healthcare system seems to be automatic and it seems to be outdoors. So this title, Eden, God's magnificent outdoor automatic healthcare system, takes in my sun cure presentations and cancer and God's healing sunlight. It's all in the same soup, Eden, the automatic healthcare system. So let's begin. When God placed Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, he surrounded them with nature, side to side, top to bottom. And all of nature was designed to keep them healthy automatically without them even trying. This be the key words, without them even trying. And different parts of nature had different jobs in keeping Adam and Eve healthy. And like I said, this is a four-part series, and part one is about the healing soil, the dirt. Now we need to start with an overview of Eden's healing principles. Voila. Okay, these are the Eden healing principles to prevent and reverse disease. And those principles and agencies will be so very simple, so easy, so restful and serene. And I'm going to present these principles just as showcased for us in Scripture before the fall of man. Okay, principle number one, live, work, and sleep outdoors. Number two, full body sunlight and air exposure. You remember, God placed Adam and Eve in a garden in the sunlight all day, every day, naked, to absorb those automatic healing agencies of nature, top to bottom, side to side, head to toe, barefoot. All right. Number three, tend a garden. Number four, eat a plant-based diet fresh from the garden. Number five, drink pure, cool water. Work when it's light, sleep when it's dark. Live chemical-free, live low stress. Walk barefooted, rest on the Sabbath, talk with God daily, marry someone nice, and don't talk to snakes. Last one, no man-made electricity or EMFs or Wi-Fi or 5G. I think we're understanding the value of that now, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. All right. Adam and Eve, in their untainted purity, delighted in the sights and sounds of Eden. God appointed them their work in the garden, to dress it and to keep it. Genesis 2:15. Each day's labor brought them health and gladness. And the happy pair greeted with joy the visits of their Creator, as in the cool of the day he walked and talked with them. Daily God taught them his lessons. This is from Ministry of Healing, page 261. Healthcare is automatic when we are in harmony with Eden principles, because nature has what we need to maintain health. God's healthcare system is harmless and simple and easy and free and effortless and outdoors and automatic. His healing agencies both prevent and reverse disease. God designed that our bodies heal themselves automatically when we live and work and sleep in nature. God has given us many other detailed health principles, but these are the basics of Eden. Today, we're just talking about the dirt. All right, working with the earth. Since this is about the Garden of Eden, we start with the garden and the very earth in which it grew. To Adam and Eve was committed the care of the garden, to dress it and to keep it. Though rich in all that the owner of the universe could supply, they were not to be idle. Useful occupation was appointed them as a blessing, to strengthen the body, to expand the mind, and to develop the character. That's what true healthcare does. In this presentation, we are going to try to unravel 4 little mysteries, 2 remarkable healing stories of history, and 2 remarkable inspired quotes from history. All 4 seem related to healing from the soil. Our first mystery story: what would happen if violent, uncontrollable prisoners were placed outside in a garden all day, every day, like Adam and Eve? But these were closed. Here's this short little 1-minute clip, a video clip. It's an ancient one. They're the best. All right, here's the story.
Former Warden Reagan of Stateville Penitentiary in Illinois was a great believer in horticultural therapy. He was a guest on my TV gardening program on several occasions to tell of the work done by the inmates of the penitentiary. I also visited him on several occasions and was amazed by the beautiful gardens within the prison walls and also the very extensive prison farms. Warden Reagan stated on many occasions that it was only through horticultural therapy that he was able to rehabilitate some of the most extreme psychological cases, making them actually eligible for parole. He said that other forms of manual therapy, including painting and sculpture, done indoors did not have the same beneficial effects. Maybe the results of the horticultural therapy were purely psychological in getting the men closer to nature and working with flowers. And maybe getting them outdoors into the natural sunlight may have been a very important factor, especially when consideration is given to how poorly the average jail cell is lighted.
Okay, the mystery that we're going to try to unravel here is, how would flower gardening make such a dramatic change in temperament? Was it just sunlight and fresh air? Well, we'll come back to that question, but let's present the other three mysteries first. Next mystery story: a dying woman with a relentless, ceaseless cough meets the soil. Hold on. I put this in words just in case. All right. Here's the woman. This is her picture. This woman said, "I know by experience the value of an outdoor life to those who are sick. Years ago, when living in Battle Creek, Michigan, it was thought that I was dying. My friend says to my husband, 'Brother White, your wife will not live long.' 'Yes,' he answered one day, 'she would not live long if she remained here, but she is going away with me today.' Accompanied by my son, Willie, we started in a phaeton for Greenville." A phaeton is a type of carriage, 80 miles north. As I could not even sit up during the journey, I knelt on two cushions placed on the bottom of the phaeton, leaning my head on my husband's knees. After reaching Greenville, my husband took me out to a strawberry bed and allowed me to work in the soil. He arranged everything for my convenience and brought out an easy chair. I was to set out the strawberry plants. This exercise in the open air seemed to take the poison out of my system. For some time, I had coughed almost constantly, day and night. It seemed as if it were impossible to cease coughing. I could sleep but little, but after beginning to work in the soil, my cough left me. Although this outdoor exercise was the only medicine I took, I was rapidly restored to health. How? She could barely move. We could hardly call that exercise. What all was in play with her rapid recovery? A cough just ceasing after starting working in the dirt. All right, and now we add those two mysterious quotes by one of the world's most prolific health reformer and author, the same lady whose story we just read. She says, talking about Loma Linda, that was one of our sanitariums there, she said, "Everything at Loma Linda is fresh, wholesome, and attractive. The patients could live out of doors a large part of the time. By outdoor exercise and working in the soil, men and women will regain their health. Drugs will be discarded." Interesting, she didn't say men will gain their health if they have this disease or that disease. She just said blank, a big wide blank check, they'll regain their health. All right, and now the last mysterious quote. Same author. "Tell those who are sick that if the hosts of those who are dyspeptics and consumptives could turn farmers, they might overcome disease, dispense with drugs and doctors, and recover health." Just a second. Okay. Again, how? How? We know that consumptives were cured by sunlight and fresh air during the war on TB, but dyspeptics? Now, dyspeptic is defined as of or having indigestion or consequent irritability or depression. Interesting. Consumptive means tuberculosis. So how would working as farmers in the dirt solve indigestion, irritability, depression, and tuberculosis? How did that woman recover so quickly from her cough when she started working in a garden in the dirt? How did working in a garden in the dirt change the temperament of hardened prisoners? We know sunlight, fresh air, and exercise are powerful healing agents of nature. But is there more to it? Something more down to earth, possibly? The two stories and the two quotes seem to suggest that the dirt itself may have healing qualities. Is there evidence that our health and well-being are connected to the soil? Well, what's in the soil? Well, according to the Mayo Clinic, vitamin B12 is in the soil. Vitamin B12 plays an essential role in red blood cell formation, cell metabolism, nerve function, and the production of DNA. Food sources of vitamin B12 include poultry, meat, fish, and dairy products. Really? But in God's Eden healthcare plan, poultry, meat, fish, and dairy products were not considered food sources. So where did God intend that we obtain our vitamin B12? Because apparently it's really hard to find. B12 is in the soil. What is that? So what does that do? According to all right. I think I messed up on one of those. Now, here's an article from MIT biologists, and the title is called Biologists Solve Vitamin Puzzle. And I'm going to give a few excerpts on it. It says, vitamin B12 is the only vitamin synthesized exclusively by microorganisms. B12 is produced by soil microbes that live in symbiotic relationships with plant roots. Same article, same professor. B12, the most chemically complex of all vitamins, is essential for human health. And number 4, excerpted from that article, still to be explored is the question of why soil bacteria synthesize B12 at all, Walker said. Soil microbiomes don't require B12 to survive, and the plants they attach themselves to don't need it either. So this was left as a mystery to the author. Would it be far-fetched to believe that God placed vitamin B12 in the soil for us? Could it be that we are rewarded with health automatically when we work the soil? We don't have to think about it. And what's in the soil? There's all sorts of stuff, germs, animal poop, etc., etc., etc. It's all waste products. It's all part of the dirt. All right, now the next slide kind of talks about that. It's another piece with B12 on it, or at least a puzzle piece. Maybe that'll help fill in the picture a bit. Ready? Here we go. I had an elderly medical professional tell me recently that she was at a lecture a long while back with a Dr. Harding of Loma Linda School of Public Health. A question was asked about getting enough vitamin B12, and Dr. Harding answered and said, just walk through a barn, breathe the dust, you'll get all the B12 you need. So this unexpected puzzle piece definitely seems to be part of the bigger picture. All right, back to the counsels on working with the soil. Let's see what else we can find. In the book Education, we're told a greater effort should be made to create and to encourage an interest in agricultural pursuits. Let the teacher call attention to what the Bible says about agriculture, that it was God's plan for man to till the earth, that the first man, the ruler of the world, was given a garden to cultivate, and that many of the world's greatest men, its real nobility, have been tillers of the soil. He who earns his livelihood by agriculture escapes many temptations and enjoys unnumbered privileges and blessings, denied to those whose work lies in the great cities. And in these days of mammoth trusts and business competition, there are few who enjoy so real an independence and so great certainty of fair return for their labor as does the tiller of the soil. Really? Could vitamin B12 be one of those unnumbered privileges and blessings? What else is included in those unnumbered privileges and blessings? What about that whole microbiome thing we've heard about here and there? Does it do more than just produce vitamin B12? Apparently, the answer is yes. And I'm just going to summarize it here. God created an unfathomably complex system of living organisms in the soil by which our health and very lives depend. It is a micro ecosystem or microbiome. When God made man out of the dust of the earth, that dust and its living microbiome became part of us. We were made from soil that was teeming with life. There are more of these microbes in our bodies than we have cells in our bodies. And they all have a purpose in maintaining our health and psyche. That microbiome varies according to where it is located in our bodies. Our gut, our skin, our lungs, etc., each has its own variation of that microbiome. Just a second, I'm going to back up for a moment. Okay. Healthy soil is an antidepressant. That's interesting. Mycobacterium vacci, a microorganism found in soil, lights up neurotransmitters that release serotonin, a mood-lifting hormone. And it's far more than just an antidepressant. Oh, hey, let's back up. That is a modern day application. You have someone you know that's depressed, get them outside in the sunlight, the fresh air, exercise, and in the soil. All right, it turns out that our gut microbiome is the seat of our immune system. The healthier and more robust the diversity of our gut microbiome, the stronger is our immune system and our ability to resist all manner of diseases, and the healthier we will be. But the health and diversity of our gut microbiome is dependent upon the health and diversity of the soil where we live. If the microbiome in the soil is healthy and robust, those that actually manually work that soil and or live and work outdoors on that soil and eat the food that grows in that soil or drink the water filtered through that soil will develop healthy, robust microbiomes, making them magnificently resistant to disease. Alternatively, those that live and work indoors in these soilless concrete cities, eating exclusively of commercially grown foods farmed in poisoned, lifeless soil, will develop a weakened and diminished gut microbiome, making them much more susceptible to all manner of disease. Some of us have experienced that. That was another reason we are told to get out of the cities. This means that if we expect to survive in these end times, we do need to get out of cities into the rich soil of the unpoisoned country, grow our own organic food, live close to the earth, work in the sunlight, and sleep in the fresh air, the automatic healthcare system of Eden. And we must stop killing our soil microbiome by the use of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and man-made fertilizers. We adopt permaculture. We feed the soil veganically, just like in the forests. We stop over-farming and we let the land rest every 7th year, as God commanded. And now we know why. Because there's life in that soil that needs rest, apparently every 7 years. He didn't give us a lot to go on that. All right. Now we must also stop killing our gut microbiome by the use of pharmaceuticals, especially antibiotics, which kill off our microbiome even faster. We stop eating sugar and GMOs and junk foods that have been sprayed in pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and distorted genetically. All right, back to that statement about dyspeptics. Tell those who are sick that if the hosts of those who are dyspeptics and consumptives could turn farmers, they might overcome disease, dispense with drugs and doctors, and recover health. Now, a farmer engages in useful labor in the sunlight and fresh air, but the number one defining characteristic of a farmer is that he works in the soil. It has been shown that there is indeed a relationship between dyspepsia and a decreased diversity and decreased population of the gastrointestinal microbiota. And the respiratory system also has its own version of the microbiome, which could have a bearing on TB patients, tuberculosis. So yes, working in the soil microbiome could help explain that quote about dyspeptics. And this may also help explain the change of attitude in the prison gardeners, as a healthy gut microbiome has also been shown to improve disposition. Yet even the healing properties in the microbiome doesn't seem to address the rapid cure of the woman with the persistent cough, because the gut microbiome takes a while to grow the balance back. So, is there yet something else in that soil that might explain it? Something that provides a rapid healing action? All right, well, we have one more healing agency in Eden having to do with the soil that I'm aware of. And it's my favorite Eden principle, Eden's barefoot health principle. Now, this principle was never spoken to us by God. It was never worded by Ellen White, but it was modeled for us in Eden. God does not have to spell everything out for us. To me, showing us how things work, what things are best, are a whole lot more than preaching words at me. So here we go. With that said, it was day 6. Instead of being spoken into existence like most everything else that had just been made, Adam, the birds, and the land animals were all formed out of the dust of the earth. I believe that God was telling all sentient beings throughout the universe that mankind and animals are part of the earth, the soil. We are all connected to it. We all came from it. Our food comes from it. Our healing comes from it. And because of sin, we all eventually return to that dust of the earth. When Adam was formed, God stood Adam up upon his feet onto the surface of the earth, and God did not place shoes upon his feet. Adam was standing barefoot on healthy soil filled with B12 and teeming with life from its own microbiome. But that was not enough for our health and healing. That was not enough. So God embedded into the surface of the earth and waters another powerful healing substance, invisible, odorless, tasteless. This substance is absorbed instantly and automatically as we walk upon the earth barefooted. That substance is vital to our continued health. It has magnificent healing and protective properties that both prevent and reverse disease. This is why God did not provide mankind with shoes. Most of mankind has never even considered the notion that walking barefoot upon the earth was a health principle until recently. Now, scientists are calling this lost Eden principle earthing or grounding. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's just touching the ground, because touching the ground grounds us electrically. Scientists are calling this the most important health discovery of all time. The magnificent, unbelievable disease reversing properties of grounding proves that assertion to be true. And what is this healing substance? It's so simple, folks. God's solutions usually are, right? The surface of the earth and waters are saturated with an almost infinite supply of negatively charged particles, electrons. That's all. Now, this is not new science. This is not news. We've known this for a very, very long time, that electrons cover the surface of the earth and the waters. Now, the surface of the earth and waters now have always carried a slightly negative charge, which means the very ground we walk on is God's original anti-inflammatory healing agent. Really? It is perfectly balanced, and its healing properties activate automatically and instantly when we simply touch the earth. Just put your hands in the soil. Just walk barefooted in the grass. The longer we are in contact with a negatively charged earth, the more consistent the healing. God's outdoor, automatic, free, effortless healthcare system. Now, if grounding is so anti-inflammatory, then why is mankind still plagued with chronic inflammatory diseases? I say chronic inflammatory diseases. There's a difference between acute and chronic. Now, because modern man has separated himself from the earth and have become chronically electron deficient. Who knew that was a thing, that you could be electron deficient? So the question is asked, how did we become electron deficient? Well, here's how. Two things. One, first, we left agriculture and moved indoors during the Industrial Revolution. Number two, we lost our electrical connection to the earth when in the 1960s, synthetic rubber-soled shoes were invented. And now 95% of people on this planet walk insulated from the earth. Wow. It was so simple, wasn't it? Clint Ober is the man of science that rediscovered this lost Eden barefoot health principle. He's not calling it that. I am, because it is. This is his opinion of synthetic shoes. This was the single thing that happened that probably caused the proliferation of inflammation-related health disorders far and above anything else. This is the most destructive invention that man had ever made, the synthetic sole shoe. Whoa, just take that in for a moment. What if that's actually true? The solution to chronic inflammation has been right under our feet this whole time, but we weren't touching it. Let's go to example number one of what happens when chronically inflamed, sick, dying people are finally grounded. This is Clint Ober telling his story. In 2000, Clint Ober, the discoverer of grounding, was asked by a friend if he would ground an elderly gentleman who was bedridden with advanced rheumatoid arthritis. The man's hands, elbows, and feet were grotesquely misshapen and inflamed. He was racked with pain and could hardly move, and then only very slowly. He was receiving comfort and at-home support from hospice. In other words, they gave him up to die. Ober said he would come and see what could be done. It took 3 people to lift the man out of the bed in order to allow a conductive bed pad to be placed on it. The pad was then connected to a ground rod outside, a grounding rod. About 10 days later, Ober received a phone call from the man asking if he could come over again. Well, Ober said that the man said that a squirrel had eaten through the ground wire. How do you know that? Ober wanted to know. I went out and saw it had been chewed through, the man said. Now, Ober was puzzled. How could a bedridden patient be up and about in his yard in a matter of a few days? 10 days to be precise. Well, that's what I did, he said. I went out and saw it. Astonished, Ober drove up again. He found the man waiting for him, leaning against the front door. He said he was feeling better, and he was right about the wire. It had indeed been chewed up by an animal. Ober replaced it. After the elderly patient had used the bed pad for 1 year, a grounding pad, for 1 year, Ober learned much from his friend that the man was much improved. He was doing household chores, tending to his fireplace, and even carrying firewood into the house from outside. The swelling had gone down. He was stronger, and he moved, talked, and expressed himself with new liveliness. The friend said that the once bedridden man had told him, I feel I no longer have disease in my body. The man continued to sleep grounded every night for the next 5 years until he died. This remarkable turnaround reveals the largely unknown fact that the ground represents the biggest and best natural antioxidant and anti-inflammatory that exists. That's saying something. There are countless magnificent health recovery stories in the documentaries and the book. That was just one of them, and that was tepid compared to others. So how does grounding reverse inflammation? Now I'm going to excerpt a few things from the Earthing movie. This is Clint Ober speaking, and it switches between speakers, but it's all one big long paragraph. All right. Clint Ober begins speaking. He says, Stephen Sinatra, who was a cardiologist from back east, was attending a convention, and we sat down with Stephen and told him the story of what I was doing. He said, well, if you're affecting pain, you need to be researching inflammation. You don't have arthritis. You don't have cancer. You don't have all these health disorders. What you have is chronic inflammation. Like I say, chronic inflammation is different from acute inflammation. Clint Ober continues. Well, to me at that time, inflammation was you sprain an ankle, it balloons up and gets red and sore, and it's inflamed. And he says, no, inflammation is different from that. Now, Stephen Sinatra speaking. We have so much inflammation in the body, and it comes out in illnesses. We go to a doctor with all these complaints, but a lot of it is just silent inflammation, including my specialty, heart disease. Heart disease, it's an inflammatory process. So how do we reduce inflammation? Here's how. Now, this is another guy speaking, James L. Oshman, PhD, biophysicist, and author of Down to Earth. He says, the most abundant protein in the body is collagen. It's the building block of our tissues. And we have literally gazillions of collagen molecules in our body. They are all embedded in a gel. This gel has a huge surface area, and it absorbs electrons and releases them when you have an injury. We're getting someplace interesting. Ober speaking again, he says, inflammation is produced by neutrophils, which is a white blood cell. You have an injury, you have a damaged cell. And so these white blood cells come over and they encapsulate that damaged cell, and they release reactive oxygen species, which rip electrons from the damaged cell and that destroys the damaged cell. Oshman speaking, white blood cells release free radicals. Well, I hear that's a bad thing. Let me read it again. White blood cells release free radicals at the injury site, which chew up any pathogens, bacteria, or dead cells. Well, that's a good thing. So they clear the area. It's called the repair field. It's the place that needs to be repaired, right? So without earthing, some of those free radicals, which are good things, some of those free radicals that are released into the repair field leak into the surrounding tissue. That is not a good thing. Clean over. If there's not enough free electrons there to reduce the remaining radicals, they're going to steal an electron from a healthy cell and in the process, damage it. Then the message goes out to the immune system and another neutrophil does the same thing, eliminates that. So then you end up with a chain reaction. Oshman speaking, and this can create chronic inflammation, silent inflammation. You may not even know it's there, and it continues for years. If inflammation is the cause of all these health disorders, then I know that not enough grounding is the cause of inflammation. Because if the body is grounded, you cannot have chronic inflammation. Isn't that interesting? I am convinced that God's intervening hand is at work in directing us back to the lost healing principles of Eden, such as this one. I believe these are to be counteragent. Let me say it a little even slower here. I believe these are to be the counteragents to the worldwide poisoning of mankind. To live by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So when we hear new light, we test it. And if we are convinced it's from God, we use it because God is pointing us back to this stuff. And it's not just this. It's how he's keeping us safe from what's already coming for us. Now, notice that grounding is God's solution for excess free radicals and inflammation, not man's. Which means, by deduction, the worldwide craze for antioxidants and anti-inflammatories was and is still a ruse by the enemy of our souls to divert our attention from the real solutions that God provided from the very beginning. All we had to do was keep ourselves connected to the earth and stick to our original plant-based diet. This explanation of the science of grounding, by the way, is very abbreviated and simplified, and thus somewhat lacking. But Clint Ober has a much more elaborate explanation in his book, but it's more than 2 pages long, just this explanation. So, nevertheless, I prefer to emphasize the results, the recovery stories, rather than the scientific theories. Mostly because scientific theories tend to change over time. The results, however, stay the same. The earthinginstitute.net. I'm just giving a tiny little introduction to earthing in this presentation. So I will refer you to the voluminous scientific research and the success stories, testimonials, that have been gathered at this website, earthinginstitute.net. And they are fabulous. Clint Ober is the absolute expert on this topic. This is the man of science who rediscovered this lost Eden healing principle and brought it to the world. These are not tainted with New Age, the website. Now, the Earthing movie, The Remarkable Science of Grounding, this first image, the first image you see here is of the documentary on grounding called The Earthing Movie on YouTube. There's a second documentary, equally as good, called The Grounded on YouTube. The second image you're looking at here is of Clint Ober's book on grounding or earthing. Without these scientists realizing they were doing it, they were pointing people back to a lost barefoot health principle of Eden. Occasionally, now here comes a problem. Occasionally, some well-meaning, conscientious Christians have accused grounding, and thus me for presenting it, of being New Age, spiritualism, pantheism, worshiping the earth, and worshiping Satan. Some rejected grounding out of hand because the words grounding and earthing sounded, hey, doesn't that sound like New Age to you? That's unfortunate in that they miss out on the healing benefits. But if grounding is truth, it can stand scrutiny. And we are commanded in the Bible to scrutinize every spirit, right? Just because New Agers may try to attach their particular spin on grounding doesn't make grounding ourselves mysticism. God's rainbow was also hijacked and turned into a symbol for the homosexual community. Does that then mean that God's promise concerning that rainbow is no longer binding? Of course not. The human body is the most complex electrochemical device on planet Earth. It is filled with electrical circuitry. The brain, the nervous system, muscles, our heartbeats, and electrical devices need to be grounded, right? So, to say that grounding these priceless, living, electrical bodies is New Age, spiritualism, pantheism, worshiping the earth, and worshiping Satan is to say that grounding your home's electrical outlets and devices is New Age, spiritualism, pantheism, worshiping the earth, and worshiping Satan. Folks, it's just basic electrical wiring 101. We ground the expensive electrical devices for optimal operation and to prevent problems, just like Adam and Eve did. This science is in harmony with the principles of Eden, the Word of God, and the writings of Ellen White. We have been told those who take the written word as their counselor will find in science an aid to understand God. The invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. That whole thing was a quote. Somehow I neglected to put a quote there at the beginning. All right. God surrounded Adam and Eve on every side with nature's automatic healing agencies. Even that big star in the sky 92 million miles away was designed with magnificent healing properties for us here on Earth. So, is it really any surprise that God would also place magnificent healing agencies right under our very feet without us even having to think about it? Now, just to cover all my bases on the New Age thing, because it has been a thing. On July 12, 2023, I had a conversation with the Adventists' undisputed expert on the New Age, Will Barron, the author of the best-selling book, Deceived by the New Age, 1990. He used to be a priest of the New Age, so I asked him straight out, is earthing New Age? He replied, earthing is a whole different thing. It's not mysticism at all. And Will pointed out to me that he has a strong background in physics and engineering. Okay, back to the stories. Neither my wife nor myself snore anymore since we grounded ourselves at night. And sleep is much deeper and thorough. And apparently both those things are quite common with grounding. Here is a Med Missionary blog, an excerpt from it. This is from the fellow named Randy Haynes. He said I could use his name. He said, I believe that getting my hands and feet in the soil while gardening, as well as lots of sunlight, were the key things that got me over hyperthyroidism about 8 years ago. By the way, here's a question for you. What healthcare occupation has proven to be, far and away, the most indispensable and most effective in preventing and reversing disease. What healthcare occupation? I'll let you think about that just for a moment. And the answer is organic farmers. Isn't that an interesting new thought? Randy and Beverly Haynes are Christian organic farmers in British Columbia, Canada. From my perspective, that makes them the most effective, practical, down-to-earth medical missionaries I know. Indispensable healthcare. All right, here's the next testimonial. This is from that same Med Missionary blog. Our Creator knows what we need and has placed it in nature for us. Simply earthing regularly is anti-inflammatory, pain-relieving, peace-giving, and nutrition-boosting, plus so much more. My dad, who is 90 now, has earthed regularly for several years, and it has helped regulate his arrhythmias and boost his mood. Interesting. His arrhythmias. I have a friend who has arrhythmias on Wednesdays. What's happening in the atmosphere where we are in Nebraska that's causing arrhythmias? This man had his arrhythmias improved when he was touching the ground. That's related, I believe. It certainly involves, would be helpful were we to study this more. All right. I feel so much better after I do my earthing. I feel less pain and more overall balance in my whole being. Praise God for giving us what we need, even in the dirt. Back to the science here. Grounding is not just the best anti-inflammatory. Oh, it gets better here. It is also the best natural blood thinner without the deadly side effects that come with pharmaceuticals. Blood thinner. Wait a minute. That cannot be right. We are told by a prophet of the Lord that water is the best blood thinner. That's true. We were told that. Therefore, grounding must be one of God's many redundant systems. Water thins the blood by diluting the blood naturally. So we ask the question, how does grounding thin the blood? How do you thin the blood without water? All right, here's one of the answers to that. Electrons from the earth, this is the science, electrons from the earth enter the body and coat the red blood cells so that the cells actually repel each other. And then they cannot clump. And the blood viscosity goes down. It's easier for the heart to pump the blood pressure goes down, all kinds of cardiovascular issues, they go away. This is from the earthing movie. Now, just because they make these claims doesn't necessarily mean it's true. We're supposed to test every spirit. We got any evidence of this? All right. Here's the evidence. Turns out there is video evidence of this phenomenon. I'm only showing you one. Let's watch that. Listen very carefully because the sound level on this particular clip is very quiet. All right, here we go. You ready? Let me turn this on.
Today, we're going to see how the earthing or the grounding affects your blood. We're going to take her blood, put it on this slide, microscopic slide, and take a look. As you can see, all her red blood cells are stacked up. This is called a stacked up cell. And see, let's go see if the earthing can help improve a little.
They're actually earthing right now, and they're just starting to ground. So we'll see them back in 10 minutes.
Let's see how the earthing or the grounding has affected her blood. Okay. As you can see, the blood, before and after the earthing is obviously changed. So So after you do the earthing, the blood can circulate better. This is a good example.
I love that. I wish it was louder. Folks, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. When we are not grounded, blood can clump together. When we are grounded, our blood does not clump together. Blood flow is faster and easier. Blood pressure goes down, which relieves strain on the heart. And oxygenation is better and easier and faster. Thus, healing is faster. Think of this after surgery. You have a surgery, you're subject to blood clots. Just get outside, touch the ground. Now, this video also demonstrated the principle that we get stocked up on electrons when we touch the earth. We need not be constantly touching the earth because the electrons are stored in our collagen until needed. Remember, you saw in this video that the lady simply grounded for 10 minutes. If she had grounded for an instant, it would have been the same thing. Then she went back inside and her blood was tested while she was ungrounded. Yet the red blood cells continued to repel each other even though she was now ungrounded. That's because her body restocked itself with electrons. Now, the next slide is from another scientist visually showing the same sort of thing, but not a video.
Today we're
Here we are. Okay. Ungrounded, the column under ungrounded, 1, 2, and 3. Notice what those blood cells look like. They're stacking. Blood on the left is from 3 participants before grounding, and blood on the right is after 45 minutes of grounding. The pictures clearly show a dramatic thinning and decoupling of blood cells. It gets better. So, water and grounding. Each is a backup system for each other in preventing blood clotting. But God has still more backup systems having to do with decreasing blood clotting or enhancing blood clotting if needed. This chart shows 8 more. Nature has everything we need to deal with the issues of blood clotting and our health. No pharmakeia poisons required. Now, since this chart you see is put together by the merchants of pharmakeia, they look at these natural agencies as getting in the way of their poisonous blood thinners, as though nature is just a harmful nuisance. We know better. Nature is our healthcare. And surprise, surprise, even sunlight prevents blood clotting. Swedish women who sunbathed during the summer on winter vacations or went abroad or used a tanning bed were at 30% lower risk of blood clots than those who did not. The risk of blood clots increased by 50% in the winter as compared to the other seasons. The lowest risk was found in the summer. God's healthcare is simple and free and automatic. It is filled with multiple redundant overlapping backup systems. Sunlight prevents blood clots. Certain herbs and foods prevent blood clots. Grounding prevents blood clots. Water prevents blood clots. Millions of pharmakeia users around the globe are perishing within reach of abundant help. God always provides better ways than mortal man's medical madness. All right, back to the grounding stories. This one is amazing. I fractured a vertebrae in my neck when I was a kid. By the way, my brother has this almost exact same problem, but he won't allow me to talk about natural healing. So I can't tell him this. I can't tell him. He begged me not to bring this stuff up anymore. Yeah, I know we all have family members that can feel that same sort of way. So let me tell the story. I fractured a vertebrae in my neck when I was a kid. It did not heal properly. and it became massively arthritic. I have had chronic pain and headaches for 30 years. 30 years! Pharmacia did not help them. I got a simple mat, grounding mat, to put my feet on when I'm sitting, and I have been using a grounded pillowcase to sleep on. After about the third night of using the pillowcase, I noticed that my neck appeared to be completely healed. The pain was completely gone, and my range of motion increased easily by at least 20% and with zero pain. For me, this was nothing short of miraculous. Yes, that was miraculous. It goes all the way back to Eden. I am completely addicted to earthing, he says. Nicholas Capra comments on the Earthing movie. Now, there are boatloads of science and wonderful health recovery stories in Clint Ober's documentary, book, and website. But this is just a tiny little introduction, as you know, to grounding. But this particular benefit needs to be told. Clint Ober discovered that as long as we are physically grounded, we are protected from the dangerous, relentless bombardment of electromagnetic fields. That's huge. That's giant. That's enormous. That's a shining gem of healing information. I cannot emphasize that enough. I've never verified this. I haven't tried. I'm going to start looking for stories of this. It's just too good not to follow up on. I really want that to be true, because our atmosphere, our sky, the air we breathe is incredibly saturated, polluted with EMFs, electromagnetic fields, etc., etc. All right, now Clint Ober's experimentation on himself was fascinating. You could read it on page 34 and 35 of his book, Earthing, 2nd edition. Eden's Barefoot Health Principle is clear evidence that God has had this whole thing figured out from the very beginning. Of course he has. He has made provisions for the terrible emergencies of disease, even in this modern electrical genocidal age. God is not slack. He knows of the toxicities and deficiencies of this age. He made provisions for it before man was even into existence. He knew how to deal with it. I had just finished my section on grounding in this presentation when I received an email. Here's what it said. I watched your video on TB and healing with sunlight. This woman was talking to me. She said, I heard you talk about sun healing bones. Well, I have osteoporosis in the back and hip and osteoarthritis in my knees, which I'm supposed to have replaced soon. I've been praying for God to show me another way. But what can you do if you're in a cold area in winter? I've told myself I would get outside this winter, but it's been way too cold. So I told her about the classic, exercise and a proper diet to prevent and reverse these things. But I did not find that very satisfying, would you? So I looked to see if Clint Ober might have something to say about grounding and osteoporosis, and inflammation. I found a page on his website, the one you're looking at, earthinginstitute.net, on osteoporosis, which I included in my answer to her. I found there were 4 healing stories. I'll just retell 2 of the shorter ones here. All right, here goes. This is from a woman 56 years old in England in 2015. She says, I broke my back a few years ago and was at the time diagnosed with osteoporosis. Those 2 things do not go well together. I refused biophosphates and calcium and was too lazy to take up weightlifting. However, I had my bones scanned again recently, and the results showed a remarkable improvement. I no longer have osteoporosis because I have been grounding for about a year. Oh, that gives us a benchmark, doesn't it? It's been about a year since my wife started grounding in her bed. And she was diagnosed with a bit of osteoporosis as well. I wonder how she's doing. We haven't tested her yet. All right. She continues. Excuse me, a different one here. 65-year-old retired nurse from Indio, California. She says, when I first began grounding, I did not have the immediate results that I have read about others having. In fact, I felt worse. I had more fatigue and pain. I have an autoimmune condition, ankylosing spondylitis. Oh my word, that is so bad, ankylosing spondylitis. Chronic pain as well as migraines. You encouraged me to hang in there, that it would get better. I continued grounding at night and during the day when I laid down. I have been grounding almost 3 months. The changes have been very gradual. When I started, I was walking 20 minutes a day and struggled to do that due to the overwhelming fatigue and pain. I have osteoporosis, and my doctor has been pushing me to go on medication for it. I have resisted because of all the side effects associated with these drugs. Smart woman. She says, I have been taking supplements to strengthen my bones. Listen to this, folks. Though my doctor said that it won't make much difference. I was on supplements before my bone scan 2 years ago, and my results showed my bone density was less. She had worsened under supplements. And yes, there's a science that explains that. I don't have time to go through it. She says, I had read that grounding may help with osteoporosis. So that was my motivation. I kept putting off my bone scan to allow more time to ground. Then my doctor refused to treat me any longer if I didn't get my repeat scan and go on meds. So I had my scan. I was shocked to learn that I no longer have osteoporosis. God is good, isn't he? Needless to say, I am a firm believer in the benefits of grounding after only 3 months. Can't wait to see how much better I get as time goes on. All right. In conclusion here, when I combined these stories that you just heard with all the other historical healing stories of nature in all my other presentations, I realized something very important about God's Eden healthcare system. And I alluded to it a few slides back. God has built into nature redundant, overlapping, backup health systems. Sunlight prevents and reverses osteoporosis. Exercise prevents and reverses osteoporosis. Eden's diet prevents and reverses osteoporosis. Grounding prevents and reverses osteoporosis. Folks, just touching the earth is the greatest anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-EMF, anti-blood clot on earth, literally on earth. It cannot get any easier than that. Just show up. Just standing there outside on the earth, your health is improving. Same thing for sunlight and fresh air. Talk about simple, easy, and automatic. Now, just imagine the speed of healing were we to combine all these into a purposeful, consistent effort for ourselves and our patients. What would that look like? Well, it looks to me like grounding, like gardening. It looks to me like gardening, just like Adam and Eve were assigned to do. Application: if we are determined to help our patients overcome disease, then we must get them in a garden, in the sunlight, barefoot and tanned. It's now making more sense how hardened, violent prisoners were turned into sane, functioning members of society simply by useful outdoor labor in a garden, in the soil, fresh air, and sunlight. And how it was that this lady's chronic, relentless cough was almost immediately eliminated after getting outside with her hands in the soil. And now we understand why God instructed Loma Linda that by working in the soil, their patients would regain their health. And now we know why dyspeptics and consumptives could overcome disease by becoming farmers. This is a paradigm shift in healthcare, even for us Adventists doing natural stuff. This comes with the healing blessings of God Himself. Rapid healing with nature working together in harmony to heal us and our patients. No pharmakeia, no defilement, no adverse side effects, but rather an actual cure for disease. Think about it. God's healthcare is embedded in gardening. That means our healthcare could actually make us money, rather than the world's healthcare system making us lifelong paupers dependent upon pharmakeia and Babylonian doctors for the rest of our lives. Becoming an organic gardener is probably the greatest medical missionary service we can do for our community. God never intended that nature be a mere afterthought in our health care. It was to be our primary health care. Man-made therapies weren't even discussed in the Garden of Eden. No more placing mortal man's medical theories and therapies above God's specified healing agencies of nature. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Therefore, we require a healthcare system that is also fearfully and wonderfully made. God's magnificent outdoor automatic healthcare system. Amen. All right, let me back out of this. Stop the share. Okay, we are back.
Okay, wow. There's some incredible information there. Hey, really encouraging. And yeah, I find sometimes the downside of God's healing methods is that they take time and consistency. So a lot of the times we don't want to take the time and be patient. So that's why, yeah, that's why sometimes we resort to the pharmaceuticals, as you were saying. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Brother John. That is, yeah, really good information. So, okay, so we had really good feedback from our past presentations. We had some questions after we finished our stream as well. So we've got questions from the last sessions that we will address to you. And anyone else that has more questions, some questions have come in as you were sharing, Brother John. And yeah, we've got a bit of time to address them. So some of the questions we received from last time was, what is your opinion on sun lamps? I think you touched a little bit on those, but what do you think about that?
I think we live in an imperfect world. We have winters. We do what we can with what's in our hand. If we are not able to fill ourselves up with vitamin D by being in the sun during the summer, and that's a real thing, then we need to do what we can. We ask God's blessing on it, do what we can. Use sun lamps. I have a tanning bed 12 feet away here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Thank you. And someone was asking about contacts, because you were talking about after cataract surgery that can interfere with the UV as well, how well it goes through the eye and, you know, how well we can receive it. Is that the same with contact lenses as well?
Yes. If you're looking through glass, it filters out UV, some UV, different degrees, depending on how thick it is, what type of glass it is. So yeah, I didn't give a good answer to you all, and I don't think I still have a good answer, but I'm assuming when they replace a cataract with a plastic lens, they're going to have trouble. But wearing sunglasses, that's going to be more trouble still, is my suspicion. I don't know, but here's the thing. What I would do had I cataracts, this is what I'd recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Do not jump to the idea that cataract surgery is the only explanation. God has a solution for everything. And since then, I watched a Barbara, what's her name?
O'Neill?
What is it?
Is it Barbara O'Neill?
O'Neill, yes, Barbara O'Neill on it's just a short little clip about castor oil and cataracts.
Mm.
And someone was claiming that they were helped by it.
Yes.
I don't have it memorized, but it was a short clip. I haven't had time to study it, but that is a thing. We look at that. There's got to be answers for that. And I think castor oil is where I'd start looking.
Mm-hmm. I've heard about that as well.
Yes, and this is the thing, what we should be doing. Do not just consult with your doctors. You need to consult with your God. And you wait for the answer when you ask him the question. Ask him, Lord, what can I do? What is within my reach that you would have me do for cataracts? And I'll use them so that you will be glorified. What do you want me to do? You study what you can, and then you ask him. So far, it's looking like castor oil is one thing. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Ask God.
Yeah. And charcoal is another thing that Dr. Clark was talking about that can help as well. But I have heard about the castor oil compresses too. So as you said, though, praying that God will reveal to you what he wants you to do, because sometimes it's not just about your health condition. God a lot of the times wants to teach you something and that you can share with others as well, I find. Yeah.
Yes. Can you verify? It sounded like you were saying that you didn't actually say the words, but charcoal can help with make cataracts go away, from Dr. John Clark.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it going away completely, but he was actually talking about having charcoal bags, like bags of charcoal, wet, tied up in a bag, and put it cool over the eyes, and that can help with different eye conditions. But I think, yeah, cataracts was one of them.
This is not about 4 miles from here is the world's largest distributor of remedial charcoal products, named Charcoal House. And they sell those bags. Eye patches, like a face mask. They sell those there. They make them there. My wife used to work there for them for 4 years. I recommend that.
Yeah, wow.
Charcoal House. Look that up on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Definitely. And you were talking about vitamin B12, Brother John. Just want to add quickly about vitamin B12 that spirulina is supposed to have a good amount of B12. And
excellent.
Yeah, it's good for iron, but it's good for vitamin B12 as well. It's an algae, so it is really good. But overall, B12, if you go on Google, you probably know it as well, but almost every article suggests that we get our vitamin B12 from animal sources. And it's just really sad because that's what sometimes we do. And if those are the results, that we are discouraged. But I always recommend people to ask themselves the question, where do the animals get the B12 from? They eat the grass and they don't wash it, right? So would you say that that's probably one thing we can do, just have our own, the stuff that we grow, have it without washing them if we are sure that it's clean enough?
No, do I have this correct? This is a question, but didn't Ellen White say we should wash our vegetables? I mean, that's, I don't know.
Can't remember.
I don't know. I haven't addressed that.
Washing.
But I would wash mine. But some people say don't peel carrots. Wash them, don't peel them. That's as far as I know on that topic.
Yeah, I've also heard as you're working with soil, the B12, you can get it under your nails as well, which is not such a bad thing. So maybe you should not wear gloves. That's another way. But usually B12, you can use B12 or you produce B12 as a result of correct digestion. So if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid and the correct digestion is not going on, I think whether you eat animals or plants, you're still not going to have good amount of B12. That's just what I've learned.
I heard, and that's really good to know because God has different ways, always redundant ways. I heard a long time ago, never verified it before I was into this sort of thing, that B12 could actually grow on your teeth if you don't brush them.
Yeah, I've heard
decades.
that. Yes, when you don't brush your teeth before eating, yes. And when you drink water, that's, when you drink water before eating, that helps as well to just have that first round of, B12.
Yes. It has always, it's always been a mystery why Adventist doctors, even the natural doctors, because I expect more of them, they claim, well, we eat a vegan diet, but we have to use supplements to make up for it. Well, no, if you're living with according to God's plan, to the Eden principles, we're not going to need supplements. We're not going to have supplements available to us very soon.
That's true.
And on top of that, there is, I've seen this on the internet. There are pharmaceutical companies are beginning to buy supplement companies, which means danger. They can put anything in it they want, like they did in the COVID wars.
That's true. Yeah, you did mention a little bit last time that either they will make them go away or mix things with them that we don't necessarily need in our body.
Yeah, I try to repeat this stuff, have a little bit of redundancy too, so it gets into our heads.
Exactly. Yeah, it is good. And soil-wise, Brother John, you did say, of course, you made it clear it is good for us. So I would just say, obviously working with our hands, but after the rain, that's what we try to do when it rains. After it, we go out and, try to walk barefoot. Would that be a good thing to do? Can dry dirt have the same effects or would be wet?
You're talking about grounding in the context of grounding?
Mm-hmm.
Clint Ober said moist grass and moist dirt soil is much more conductive than dry soil. And healthy, robust soil, like in a jungle, is really, really conductive to electricity.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good to know.
You can ground yourself just by touching a moist plant, a living moist plant.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, so someone was also asking, why do you think God placed gemstones over the earth?
I just watched the Noah documentary, The Days of Noah. Beautiful. And I had the very same question. I don't have an answer. Does that person want to venture a guess? Does he have an idea?
Yeah, do you want to have a guess? Carib, I think we got the question from Carib, the YouTube name, the profile name. Yeah, and someone was also asking about sand. Did you say in our last presentation, sand can be the same if we try to walk on the beach in the sand?
If it's moist.
Yeah.
If it's absolutely dry, it's not gonna ground you. And the surface of the water, get in the water, that'll ground you. My shower pipes are metal. So the water that's coming out of the faucet grounds me.
Yeah, that's good. And you were talking about shoes as well. And okay, so synthetic rubber soled shoes are not good. We established that. So do we have alternatives? What can we do? Like we can't walk
Leather.
barefoot wherever we go. Leather,
moccasins, or grounding shoes. They have little devices that touch the earth, which touch you, etc. Wear wool socks or no socks. Don't wear polyester or synthetic fiber. I wear a wool blend sock because I can't find 100% full wool and still be usable. I bought, oh, here, hold on a second. Let's see, do you see that?
yeah.
That is a moccasin. This is made from, this is a grounding one. It's made from moose hide.
Wow.
Like cowhide. The only reason I haven't worn it is because they're just a bit too tight. So I'm just going to resell it.
They're
Get
beautiful.
The simpler the better. The thinner the sole is, the better. If they're absolutely dry, they're not going to ground you either. So the natural moisture in your skin, you're wearing it for a while, will start grounding it, especially if the ground is wet, is slightly moist itself. So these do not work on dry concrete.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, really, really good to know.
Yeah. This pair cost me $186. And I bought it from Canada.
Well, hopefully you can wear it for a while. Oh, well, after you resell it and get new ones.
Yeah, get bigger ones.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And I have a few comments about, you were talking about the blood thinning effect of grounding. That's one thing. I was working with people that had high blood pressure, and these were people who actually had pretty serious issues after COVID. One of them was my mom. After COVID, her blood was so thick that they couldn't draw blood from her. And so she was on blood thinners for, I think she was supposed to be on those blood thinners for the rest of her life. That's what they say. Yeah, that's how it goes. So we worked with her and with the ginger and the garlic and cayenne and all the things that the pharmaceuticals were saying that you shouldn't combine with blood thinners. Those things we used, and we gradually were able to get off those blood thinners, which is thank God. But that's something that I need to add to the protocol to advise the grounding as well. And yeah, I don't know, again, they live in a city, so might not be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, we've got to get out of the cities. I mean, those of us who are paying attention, awake and paying attention, it's like, how do we get out of here now? I live in a little tiny, small little town. Most people live out of town. We're still trying to get out. Yeah, I asked Agatha Thrash once when she was giving a presentation at our church about 20 years ago. I said, what's the best blood thinner? In the context of the medical field, rat poisoning is actually what they use. She said, water. Well, she probably got that from Ellen White, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
If we're going to thin our blood, water would do it. But they choose poison instead. The doctors, I'm talking about the doctors. Crazy.
Yeah. And I know that the other person I was working with, they were working with a doctor, and I actually told her, I said, well, you ask the doctor, you're going to get medical advice, typical medical advice. So just know that whoever you ask, you're going to get an appropriate advice from them. So we worked with her as well, and she is also, I think, off all her blood thinning medication, and she had serious complications. So it is really good, but unfortunately, yes, we are scared into thinking that we do need to use the rat poison all of those things. And also, Brother John, you were talking about the grounded pillowcases, mats, etc., or the mattresses to sleep on. So that's something that, are they websites that people can purchase those products from?
Yeah. Oh, which one? He's got several. Clint Ober has several websites. One of them is his products. The other one is the science. He's probably not legally allowed here in the United States to sell a product connected with testimonials, and this will do this. We're not allowed to do that here. So he has to be at least 2 clicks away. That's what they had to do at the charcoal house here too. Their products on one website, their testimonials and science on another website 2 clicks away. Madness.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so someone is suggesting as well, again, that shungite is supposed to block EMF. They are rocks. I'm not sure how they're used, but someone is suggesting that the shungite rocks can block EMFs.
I'm willing to look at all that stuff. Can you spell it for me? Oh,
yeah. So it's SHUNGITE.
shungite. Okay. Blocks EMF. I'll look into that. Again, God has redundant ways to do the same sort of thing. So I used to, years ago in my naivety, think, well, there was one way. God provided one way, so your way must be wrong. No. No, lots of ways. Blocks EMF.
True. Okay, so Veronica says, I was taught not to walk outside barefoot because of parasites. What are your thoughts on that?
I would suspect that you might know more about that than I. I don't know anything about that. So I don't have an opinion, never came across any science about it, wasn't in my books. So I don't dare speak on it.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything bad about walking barefoot. I know there are athletes that they train barefoot in Australia as well, I have heard. So I haven't heard any side effects or getting parasites in that way. I guess unless you have a cut and something can go in that way. Yeah, a cut in your foot or injury that can make it possible. But yeah, otherwise I haven't heard in normal healthy circumstances of that happening. So
in healthy circumstances, good
yeah. Barefoot. So what is the brand of the shoes? Okay.
Well, let me grab that. Is that backwards? That is backwards. I got to flip the screen.
No, we can see it.
You can read it?
We can read it, yeah.
Great. The way it should be, because to me, it's reading backwards.
Yeah, no, we can read it, right? I think everyone can read it. Yeah, I can see it well.
All right. It's called Laurentian Chief. Laurentian Chief, Quebec, Canada. Eugene Cloutier Incorporated.
Yeah.
Eugene Cloutier. Where is it? Right there. Yeah, that is backwards.
Yeah.
I flipped this thing the other day and I should have flipped it back. Can I even do that?
Okay, wonderful. And they look beautiful. So, well, I think that's it for the questions. We don't have much time to address anymore. And one thing I remembered, but Brother John, as you were talking about the dangerous criminal who was rehabilitated after gardening and stuff. And I can't remember now who you were talking about, but I just remembered the story from The Incredible Journey. They were talking about this guy named Harry Orchard. Have you heard of him? Yeah, he was a pretty dangerous criminal placing bombs, and he was I think pretty good at that. And he went to prison for life. He got life in prison, and after a while he got to know Jesus, and he actually was converted enough that he wasn't considered dangerous anymore. He still was there for life, but he was given a little bit of space to have his garden and everything. And someone, whether he was a journalist, I can't remember, that visited him, he said he's one of the most decent people I have seen. So he was doing gardening, the rest of the time that he was in prison. And yeah, no one could tell anymore that he's dangerous or he had any inclination to, continue in his previous path.
Wow, very good.
Yeah. So, well, we want to thank you so much again for sharing with us today. I hope that everyone is encouraged now to go and do more gardening and grounding and all of that. You did explain that it's not New Age, and it is part of God's healing methods. So it is really good, and yeah, we do really appreciate the time you took to share with us. I hope we all are encouraged.
Thank your audience for attending, and I appreciate the opportunity. It's something we're supposed to do. We're supposed to share our puzzle pieces. So
yes, amen. So can we please ask you to close with a word of prayer then?
Yes. Lord God, you are magnificent, and you've created our healthcare magnificently, and we thank you for that. And we really thank you that you are bringing it back to our attention here through different avenues. We ask you for more and more as the world gets worse and worse. Keep us tuned in our minds to, to discern when a new light is given to us, sir. We thank you for that. We thank you for this opportunity here today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Brother John. We will see you not next Sunday for us, but the one after.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Yes.
Good enough.
Okay. See you next
Bye.
time. Bye. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining today. We want to thank you again for your questions and for your support. We want to remind you, next Sunday we don't have a presentation as such. We will meet again the Sunday after for Eden Part 2. And we will go from there. If you want to be part of our online community, as we have mentioned before, you can join our YouTube or Rumble page by subscribing, share with others as well, because as we are learning, the information is incredible. So please do that. And we will see you on our next presentation. May God bless.